Take your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape!
Welcome back to the Twilight Pwn, the internet's third most popular Twilight Zone podcast. My name is John. I'm joined by my co-host Fred.
Hello.
Fred, how are you doing today?
Well, we basically took like a 3-month, maybe 4-month break from the podcast. Didn't really talk to each other. And now the distance between episodes is less than 24 hours. So
it's like a weird, we're like a resident or like a oil rig worker. It's a very strange schedule. But...
Yeah, exactly. Can keep you posted on the work emails I sent today. How about you? You doing all right? Has the past 24 hours treated you decent?
It's been good. I did, I figured it's worthwhile to ask. Did you get a chance to go out and see record-breaking Stephen King's It over the weekend?
No, I'm not like as big of a horror movie person. My wife is really like the horror fan of the house. And like
Gotcha.
Every time like a big like impact horror movie hits the silver screen, there's like a long negotiating process where she has to like promise me various things so that like I'll go through the horror movie. I've got her up to going with me to see a pretentious like foreign movie and buying me dinner when we go to see it. But I think if I hold out another week, I can like I'm playing like a long con game. How about you? I guess I take it you saw it?
Yeah. Did you end up, I mean, of course, we'll just end up on tangents forever, but did you end up watching Stranger Things on Netflix?
Yeah, I watched the first 2 episodes and I really didn't like it all that much.
Oh, then you're going to love it. No, it's like Stranger Things was kind of like among the many hundreds of things it ripped off. Like, it kind of had an It vibe. And like, there's even, the main kid from Stranger Things is in It. So there's a whole... It's kind of like, I was going to say, if you're okay with Stranger Things, it's basically like Stranger Things, but, slightly different.
But how could it really rip Stranger Things off? Because Stranger Things is like nothing but like a verbatim
No, I mean, I'm not saying it... I wasn't saying it ripped Stranger Things off. I said it's like in the vein. Like if you
got it.
Because Stranger Things was very much ripping off like It and The Goonies and 100 other things.
That's a real like snake eats itself situation. Like, it'd be amazing if they remade The Goonies, but with the Stranger Things cast, and just the world would collapse upon itself. Yeah. Well, I feel like that could have been an hour-long conversation, but thankfully, let's just pull right out before we nosedive and get back to the subject at hand. So I'm going to go ahead and limit and say last week. For us, it was yesterday, but last week, you were hearing us talk about the Planet of the Apes movie probably for quite a long time if you made it to the end of that episode. We only got about halfway through the movie. And
our want when we discuss movies, apparently. Every now and again, I'll download try a new podcast or something, and if they talk about a movie or something and I download it and the podcast is like 2.5 hours long, the episode, I'm just like, are you crazy? No. And I just delete it. But like here I'm like, well, we break it up into 2 parts. This is completely reasonable.
It is what it is. It is what it is. We were spoiled on the 26-minute Twilight Zone episodes. I don't want to give a recap because obviously if you're coming in now, you've probably listened to the first one and hopefully you've watched Planet of the Apes. But just, if this is the first episode of our podcast you're listening to, first of all, I apologize. But second of all, go check out Planet of the Apes. And we're going to dive right back in just as Charlton Heston is recaptured in a big net. And he gives us one of many iconic lines from this film. Let's just hear it again. I know we opened the episode with it, but let's hear it again to situate ourselves.
Take your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape!
I don't know if I'm crazy. There's something about the way he says paws. It's like a door. It's like if you were. I just picture like a grandpa playing with his old dog. He's just like, show me those paws. Let me see those cute old paws.
I don't know. I mean, what occurs to me listening to it for the 4th or 5th time now in a span of 24 hours is that like oftentimes when you like know that there's a classic line from a film before you see the movie, when you actually see it, it's kind of underwhelming, you know, like in Casablanca, they never really say "play it again, Sam." And if you've ever seen Treasure of the Sierra Madre, you know we don't have to show you no stinking badges. Yeah, that line is kind of just like kind of a nothing line in the movie. But like, man, Chuck leans into that line. Like, you really get your money's worth.
They knew they were like, Chuck, we're gonna cut the trailer around this, baby. You gotta sell it.
Yeah, exactly. We're gonna turn this into a GIF right away. Anyway, so Chuck is captured by the damn dirty paws of the apes, and really quickly, actually, we get another iconic line from the film because he's back in his cage in the science hospital jail where the apes are doing experiments on humans, and they're just kind of spraying him with a hose while they take away his Neanderthal chick.
Most movies would kind of space these out a little bit, but Planet of the Apes just goes for it.
It's a madhouse! A madhouse!
No, I gotta ask you, what does that mean? I mean, I know what it means, but why is he saying that?
Okay, if you put me in a scenario where I'm on a planet and there are 8 people who are exactly like us, but, you know, in charge and blah, 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 I at some point probably would just reach the conclusion that I have gone nuts and everything is insane. And maybe I'd start screaming and crying and saying, like, it's a madhouse. Like, if Charlton Heston's brain were just broken from then on, I think the line would make sense.
Yeah.
I don't know if it makes a ton of sense.
It also just kind of has, like, a Shakespearean vibe to it. I just feel like it's, like, a little more poetic than I feel like I'd be able to come up with if someone was spraying me with a power hose. Like, I'd probably just be like, like, be leaning heavily on the 4-letter words. I don't know. It's a madhouse, I tell you, is kind of highfalutin. But anyway, Chuck gives us 2 gems in a row. But right after they turn off the power hose, it's kind of amazing how smoothly he segues from, like, you know, being sprayed and thinking the world's gone mad to sort of like casually bragging to the Neanderthal chick about how many chicks he hooked up with on Earth. Like, did you enjoy that sort of like smooth transition into the Playboy Nights segment?
I don't know. I feel like maybe Heston worked with the screenwriter. He's like, we've got to make my character a little bit more relatable. Yeah. Let's talk about how I am with the ladies.
He really is just like, back on Earth, there were many lovers. Yes, many. We made love. Yes, of course. And did you notice this weird little, like, drop of... He mentions that the female astronaut they were traveling with at the beginning of the movie was supposed to be, like, their Eve? Like, i.e., these 4 astronauts were going to land on some foreign planet and colonize it with 3 men and 1 woman?
Yeah. I mean, sure, it made for a hilarious 80s comedy, but, you know...
Did the scientists who put this mission together just like never take biology or genetics or anything?
Instead of a flight manual, they just had a copy of Penthouse 4.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like that doesn't work, guys. It's gonna be one hell of a redneck planet. But anyway, that's just a small touch. The chat that they're having is broken up by a bunch of damn dirty apes who haul his ass to the primates court. He's in the next sequence, Taylor / Charlton Heston is he's on trial, and so apparently the nudity at the beginning of the film just wasn't enough. Because the ape judge doesn't like his stinking rag, so they strip him off and we're treated to one more Charlton Heston butt shot.
I feel like they showed great restraint by letting him, hold his stuff on the forward-facing shots.
That's true, yes. Yeah, that was very
tasteful.
I'm
sure Charlton wanted to, be, standing very proud and out
yes,
there.
Exactly. It's just not realistic.
Like, Chuck, somehow we're going to get a PG on this one, baby. You got to cover him up.
My character wouldn't be ashamed of his sword.
Exactly.
Anyway, his firearm. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of love this because, you just know, like, the audience was thinking, like, well, what's a science fiction ape movie without a courtroom drama? Like, it's just weird because it's they really do all the things. Like, a bailiff comes in and the judge is like, counsel, do you object? Like, it's like they brought in John Grisham to do a dialogue punch-up on their ape movie. It's just, I don't know. As a lawyer, how did you feel about it?
The naked Chuck, like, really gives it a weird... I mean, maybe to its credit, like, it starts to feel like a fever dream or something. Like, there's a naked dude in the middle of an ape court. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. It's like, from one angle, it just sounds silly and stupid, but maybe from another angle, it's, like, so surreal, it's kind of, unsettling.
If you've come to accept the ape makeup, which I admit maybe I didn't quite buy into as heavily as they were probably hoping... there's a lot of, like, close-ups of apes talking and saying, like, I object, Your Honor, and...
I mean, this movie zigs when others might zag. Yeah, you probably were not expecting the, courtroom procedural to break out.
Yeah,
so
exactly, yeah.
Here's a little clip for you.
Learned judges, my case is simple. It is based on our first article of faith, that the Almighty created the ape in his own image, that he gave him a soul and a mind, that he set him apart from the beasts of the jungle and made him the lord of the planet. These sacred truths are self-evident. The proper study of apes is apes. But certain young cynics have chosen to study man. Yes, perverted scientists who advance an insidious theory called evolution.
I can't, like, watching the whole thing, I can't help, and frankly, most legal, like, drama makes me think of, but the Phil Hartman unfrozen caveman lawyer, especially when you've got an ape there, like, it's hard not to think, like, I'm just a simple country ape, but...
I'm just a simple Forbidden Zone ape, Your Honor. It's also, I don't know, it's not just, like, a trial, too, it's like Inherit the Wind or something like that.
It's like Inherit the Capuchin. Am I right, Fred?
Hey-oh, is that the best you could do?
Well, when you write them, you got to put them in there. So.
Exactly. I don't know. Something about this scene is just like...
Well, I think it's interesting that, the, like, prosecutor was like, I could go after Taylor, but you know what? I'm going to put the whole damn system on trial.
Exactly. I'm just going to flip Taylor. Take it one step up the hierarchy.
This case is about a lot more than Taylor. He's just caught in the middle of this bigger thing.
Yeah,
He's
it's like
just
The
caught in a
Wire.
whirlwind.
They're really, like, analyzing all the corruption inherent in ape society.
Well, we are joking, but I mean, I guess that's the thing that's good about the courtroom scene is like it's a way to give us a broader picture of like, and we kind of saw it for briefly. We saw like a funeral eulogy or like maybe it was a religious ceremony kind of talking about the lawgiver, but it gives us like a little bit more coherent picture of like ape law and the way their society is structured. But kind of.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, they have this, they have this ancient sort of deity type person called the lawgiver, and there's these things that I guess probably are somewhere between a constitution and 10 commandments, which talk about like things that apes must or must not do, and you kind of have the orangutans, the orange dressed apes who are more conservative, and you have the green apes, the chimpanzees who are a little more newfangled in their beliefs about ape evolution, and we're getting like
and you got those gorillas that are like all kind of militia types, like super hardcore libertarians, hard to categorize.
Yeah, they're kind of like the freedom caucus of the situation. Like, I think the movie wants you to think, well, this is just how humans would treat an ape if an ape was on trial, but like, if an ape could talk as well as Charlton Heston, like, it would be a lot more shocking than like, yeah, but he doesn't know the article of the Constitution. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's trying to flip the script on you, but it's like, if you really turn it on its head, it doesn't quite add up.
It's the whole thing is, I'm not trying to make a pun, but it's just the most like accurate description. It's like a kangaroo court. So I guess, these people are all like complicit in the system because it is silly. Like, the ape prosecutor, the D-ape, is like basically trying to show how much, how Taylor is not that great because, like you said, he doesn't know like the nuances of ape law or whatever. But like, that just wouldn't fly in the reverse situation. Like, I feel like if an ape could start talking, like our instinct wouldn't be to put him on trial as being an outcast and a freak. He would just we would probably end up dissecting him.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
it would just be a scientific issue. You know? Like,
yeah. I feel like we're a lot kinder to apes in human society than this movie's apes are to humans in their society.
Who knows what we would do if we had a real walking, talking,
rootin' tootin',
Charlton Heston-esque ape in our midst.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a question for the ages. This trial kind of proceeds in sort of a slapdash fashion. And at some point, Heston writes a statement about, what has happened to him, again, sort of asserting, like, I crash-landed on this planet and I'm intelligent or whatever. And apparently, because it's a really nice day, they're going to take court outside to sort of test his theory, to look at the other humans who were captured in the roundup that Heston was captured in. So he finds Dodge, who's like in a crowd of Neanderthal humans, and at first he's relieved, but then when they get closer, they see that he's been lobotomized. So obviously,
he's got like a super hipster haircut. So
he kind of does actually. Yeah, it's like a half mohawk, and he's got some cool lobotomy tattoo on his forehead. So obviously, that's no help. And then we get back to the courtroom, and there's just a lot of back and forth about this forbidden zone thing and ape evolution, and the orangutans don't like humans, and the apes in green costumes are sad because they do like humans, and it's full of a lot of meaning. I don't know. Did you get a clip?
No more clips.
Okay.
It's very twisty and turny. I mean, it's like the end of A Time to Kill. It's extremely dramatic, but we just got to keep moving. Yeah.
Okay. So he's found guilty. Everybody's guilty.
Wait. I think Landon is the gunner. I think we've been screwing that up. I think Landon is the gunner and Dodge is the gentleman who did not make it. I'll just, for all the listeners who are super excited to email in, I'll throw you the boner.
Okay.
I hate to tell you, but I'm afraid this time you pulled a boner.
Okay, so Landon is the gunner, Golden Boy, and Dodge is the scientist dude. All right, so next up, Charlton Heston is in chambers with Dr. Judge Zaius, smoking a cigar and talking about how the whole court trial was a send-up, and Dr. Zaius doesn't believe that humans are savages, but his motivation seems to be to try and find out where Charlton Heston came from for real, because I think he thinks that there's other smart humans, and they have sort of like a philosophical tete-a-tete, and Zaius offers Heston a plea bargain, right?
Oh, I don't have the clip. Can you remind me what was the deal on the table?
If Heston basically reveals this other group of humans that are presumably as intelligent as him, then Dr. Zaius will basically won't lobotomize him.
Right.
Now, as a lawyer, how do you feel about that?
I would definitely have moved for a motion to transfer the venue. I'd try and get it into the Forbidden Zone, get it somewhere else, because this is just, Ape City is it's a not friendly place for man.
It's a hanging town.
yeah, exactly.
Anyway, Heston kind of doesn't take this plea bargain. He wants to talk to his lawyer, and he gets dragged out of Dr. Zaius' office by a bunch of gorillas. And things look pretty dark for him because obviously Dr. Zaius wants to see him swing for the crime of being a human, and he's kind of sitting there woefully playing a harmonica. But at this point, we get the introduction of a new ape.
Before they have it, I think we see the guard ape, and the guard ape who's watching him is sitting there smoking a stogie, and I just had to think man, an ape smoking a cigar has just got to be a real unique smell, huh? That's really that's got some real features to it. I don't know about you. I don't know how you feel about perfumes or deodorants. I have a very sensitive nose. I don't like smells in general. I try and avoid them by and large. Because it's just but man, ape smoking a stogie, I think I'd be very, very uncomfortable with that.
So do you not wear deodorant then?
Did I say deodorant? I meant cologne, or I meant cologne. Did I say deodorant?
You said deodorant, yeah.
Well, to be honest, I don't sweat very much, so I used to wear deodorant very regularly, but now I found if I'm just going to work, I don't really need it. But if I'm going out and about for a day trip, then I would. But just to sit in an office. I'm like virtually. This is getting into my body in a way I'm not comfortable with.
Let's discuss your other smells, John. Anyway, in the jail, we get the introduction of a new ape. Once again, this movie makes it really easy. The apes are just like color coded by like goodness. Like if only real society was that easy. But we get an ape in a green costume who comes in, so we know he's good.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm being unfair, and I don't know. I'm honestly not sure if the clip is as bad because it doesn't have the poor mouth movement. But I felt like this might have been an interesting example of really bad acting ape. Let's just listen.
Are you Julius?
Who are you?
I'm from the Office of Animal Affairs. That male is to be transferred to the zoo.
At this hour? Who says so?
Don't they tell you anything? The Anti-Vivisectionist Society is up in arms. They're gonna save this beast from those butchers in the lab. If he can speak, he belongs in a public zoo. But what'll probably happen is that some money-mad grown-up will put him in a circus, and then we'll have to pay to see what rightfully...
Stop making speeches and show me the order. This order's no good. It must be countersigned by Dr. Zayas.
Yeah, I mean, I'm inclined to go easy on them. I mean, given that they're wearing like 4 pounds of makeup and kind of like...
I mean, you're definitely listening to like the 6th and 12th lead in an ape movie getting like their own dialogue scene between each other.
You know what's kind of funny is that little run of dialogue really reminds me of my own career as an actor, because I was in like every high school play, but I always played like assistant jail keeper or like policeman number 3, and I definitely I had a lot of lines like those lines, like this has got to be countersigned by Dr. Zayas. I probably delivered them like just as poorly.
I mean, with the courtroom scene right behind us, there was a good chance this movie was about to go off on a different tangent. It was going to be kind of like a critique of the bureaucracy of the system, and they would just be bickering for the next 15 minutes. You don't know.
But instead, what it is ape jailbreak movie. Because this new bad acting ape, what's his name?
I think he's Lucius.
Yeah, I think he's supposed to be like a teenage
kind
of greaser ape or something like that.
Exactly.
I don't know. He's supposed to be like a countercultural, rebellious ape, sort of. We get that later, but that's a difficult thing to telegraph.
You get the impression he's younger, but
Yeah, it's definitely it's hard to gauge ape age, especially when it's not a real ape.
Right.
But anyway, this little tyke ape kind of sucker punches the guard, and Heston soon helps out, and they break out, and then Heston insists on grabbing his chick, and under cover of day for night, they make a break for it. And they run out of...
Oh, you noticed that was some classic day for night.
Oh yeah,
it's a beautiful blue night out there.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I wonder if Midnight Medford came in to consult. Yeah, they make a dash for it, and it's like 4 p.m. But it it's night. It's supposed to be night, so let's call it night. Mm-hmm. And they make a run for it, and they end up in this stagecoach thingy. Then they eventually meet up with Cornelius and Dr. Zira, and because they've all been found guilty by this sham court, they're breaking Heston out of there, and they're gonna what is their plan? They're gonna go...
I really don't think there's a super coherent plan here. I mean, I know where they end up and I know what happens, but I can't fully explain what the plan is and why it's important to show Heston what they intend to show them.
All right, I'm going to take a stab at it. I think what they're trying to do is that Cornelius, who's an archaeologist ape, we've learned, he's discovered some evidence in the Forbidden Zone that relates to
He's this should be in a museum.
They've discovered some evidence in the Forbidden Zone that would seem to indicate that apes evolved from men, essentially, which would be sort of sacrilegious to ape society. And I think the point is that if he can discover that, then that'll somehow get them off the hook and prove that Heston is, I don't know, not evil or something. So I think what they're relying on...
but it really doesn't, because he's already discovered it. What does Heston care? It's like, I take you at face value, sure. There was like human culture here. What I don't know.
I don't think it's. I think Heston's just kind of along for the ride at this point. I think he wants to escape on his own, but he figures like these damn dirty.
Yeah, I'll go see your little, the place you spent your semester at sea. Okay, I'll go. Sure. I did like this little moment though when they're kind of all rounding up.
Now look here, Taylor. I'm in charge of this expedition.
Good for you. But you're not in charge of me.
I feel like Heston probably had that in his contract from here on out. It's like, I get to cock at least one gun.
Yeah. It is kind of
I don't care if it's an ancient ape culture. I'm cocking a gun.
Yeah. I'm getting my cold dead hands on that piece. He really does relish the gun in a way that feels more true than the rest of the performance. But yeah, it's kind of like, I don't know, it's funny how like the movie just starts cycling through genres really quickly towards the end. It's like we get out of like, a few good apes, we get out of a few good men, then we have like, like a heist, a jailbreak movie. It's like The Great Escape, The Great Ape,
The Great Escape.
Yep, there we go. And then now it's like a Western, like it's like, I don't know.
Gosh,
the ape who shot Liberty Valance. I don't know.
I mean, that's kind of a reach. I'm sure there's a good one there. Yeah. Listeners, please write the jokes that we should have.
Yeah, exactly. That would be helpful. And if you could do it soon to make the final edit, that'd be great. But they're like on this stagecoach, like riding through the American West, and it's like all that's missing is like a dun 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 like type score. But they finally make it out of the Western and into the Indiana Jones part of this movie because they get to the cave.
It turns out they were digging in the wrong place.
Yes, exactly.
Well, I think there's like a little beat here slightly before when they kind of are between a gulf or a cliff for some reason. They talk about the Forbidden Zone just a little bit more. It's just a little more color. I don't know. I got a clip. Why not?
You never told me. Why do you call this a Forbidden Zone?
No one knows. It's an ancient taboo set forth in the sacred scrolls. The lawgiver pronounced this whole area deadly.
So that gives you more insight. No one knows.
Yeah. And why did they have that conversation across like the gulf of a canyon?
No idea.
Okay.
No idea. I think it was just for the shot.
Yeah.
I don't really know.
This is the sound designer wanted to break out the echo chamber and wanted to toss him a bone. I don't know. It's so weird. But anyway, they do get to the beach. Heston does shave, kind of takes a break from the escape from the deadly gorillas to, get his look right.
Yeah, and then we get some more levity.
Yeah.
Why did you do that? Scrape off your hair.
In my world, when I left it, only kids your age wore beards.
Beards? I don't go in for fads.
It's kind of like a 1-2 punch of like, dumb jokes.
I don't know. I feel like we'll get into this later, but this script had multiple authors, and if you look into the trivia, like there's one guy who was brought on at the very end, and apparently like his touch was to make things like a lot more lighthearted, and like you can really feel his lines, like sort of apropos of nothing. We get a dumb hippie joke, but anyway.
Like, does that even make sense that, like, the joke, like, fundamentally doesn't work, right? Like, she's complaining, why did you shave your beard? He says only certain people have beards. And then she says, well, I don't go in for fads.
Which would seem to indicate that he knows what a beard is. Yeah.
Yeah, like, the beard is the fad culture, but...
I don't know, John. Questioning that joke is breaking an ancient taboo. The lawgiver told us that joke.
Sure.
The secret scrolls.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's this archaeological site. But before they do it, before they get into this cave, Dr. Zaius and the gorilla cop show up. But Dr. Zaius is taken hostage incredibly easily. Like, that has got to be the most easily taken hostage in the history of cinema. Like, it's they just show up. They've got like
you protect your king. You don't bring him out there.
Exactly. It's just like they've got like 40 guys all armed with guns, and they show up, and Charlton Heston's like, "I'll shoot you if you don't give them to me." And they're like, "Okay, you got me there."
Yep. There's a reason the field generals are usually back in the tents.
Yeah, maybe like the apes, like flight is scientifically beyond them, as well as the concept of a hostage. like that's just beyond ape.
Well, I guess maybe like, they've only ever dealt with man as they know it.
Yeah.
So they're not used to this sophisticated, he's got a gun.
Yeah.
And has...
So they take Dr. Zaius hostage. The basic deal that Dr. Zaius agrees to is that if they go in the cave, and if they can prove that ape society, again, I'm just kind of, this is a shot in the dark, but this is what I understand it to be.
I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, okay. If they can prove that ape society goes back before the sacred scrolls, then everybody's off the hook, because that just proves the... Anyway.
And everyone gets a Pontiac Aztek and $100. Like, what's the end game here? We know, like, Zaius is a devious figure. Like, I don't know what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why ever they're doing it, they climb up into the cave to check it out. And, we're in this...
I mean, there can be no doubt that they are, in fact, doing it.
Yeah.
So we've got that.
It is not us to question the whys. It goes against ape law. At this moment, it's kind of funny, because at this point we're like a good hour and 40 minutes into the movie, so I don't know why I noticed it now. But because you're seeing these like long shots of these ape actors walking through this big archaeological site, I was really struck by like how some of them really give it a go at like trying to walk and move like an ape, and some of them really don't give a shit.
Yeah, we've kind of glossed over that.
Yeah.
But it is certainly, it is throughout the movie that some actors were like, I'm going to research my character. I'm curious. How does a chimpanzee move? And other people are like,
yeah,
I ain't getting paid enough for this shit.
Yeah, exactly.
You made me sit in a chair for 3 hours. I'm done. Yeah. I'm just going to walk.
So yeah, Cornelius is walking his little class through the artifacts that he found, sort of explaining how before there was ape civilization, there was sort of like a primitive version of ape civilization, and we're going like deeper and deeper into the dig. And then he, at the very bottom of the dig, finds, ironically, interestingly, a more advanced civilization. So it's like it gets primitive and then suddenly gets advanced. And they had metal tools, and they had like various things, and there was also a doll, like a kind of walk me, wet me, Susan type of doll.
They also had human heart valves, as Taylor points out, which is like, again... I know we're building to a shocking twist that we really don't want to give away quite yet, but at this stage of the film, like, I just don't get how Taylor hasn't put the pieces together when he's like staring at a human heart valve.
Yeah.
Like, that's a piece of technology that's as specific as you could possibly get
to Earth. Yeah. It's like they had this globe of the planet Earth and all these maps of Earth. I don't know. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, tabs, exactly. Dr. Zaius just isn't having it. He's basically saying, well, you could have come up with some other explanation. Maybe this man had an ape master we'll find his skeleton nearby if we keep looking. But there is one more twist to come, because Charlton Heston is going through all the old artifacts, and he's explaining what they are, like including the heart valve. Yeah. And then he walks over to the doll and kind of is shaking it, and it suddenly talks.
And it's all like, I'm Talkie Tina, and I don't like you, Dr. Zaius. The movie goes in a surprising direction.
Yeah, exactly.
Quite satisfying.
So we don't have the clip?
No.
Okay, cool.
Doesn't it just say, like, mama or something?
Yeah, it just says, like, mama. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's quite the sick burn, because why would apes make a human doll that could talk if humans...
Right. Somehow this is played like a big twist, and a, like, kind of, boy, this really takes Zaius down a peg or makes him rethink everything. But it's like, you've got a human who can talk and reason holding the doll that can talk. Like, aren't we already way past this? I don't know.
Well, I think the fact that, like, we as the audience already know that Dr. Zaius is kind of, like, corrupt. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but, like, why is this scene interesting to the audience if we already know Dr. Zaius is corrupt?
Well, that's
like,
my
the fact
point.
That we find
That's my point, is that the film kind of, like, it tries to pretend that, like, Dr. Zaius maybe still could be turned by the truth or something like that, even though you kind of know that's not the case. If they'd been a little bit smarter about not revealing how corrupt Dr. Zaius was earlier,
Yeah,
like
I think
this
that
would
might be
have
like the
more
big
of a
problem.
payoff.
Yeah.
You know? I
Yeah.
think they were so excited about spending that nickel of showing the corruption of Dr. Zaius that they kind of like they brought it out too early. But yeah, I agree. It's a little bit pointless. But you know, we've got the doll. It has kind of like a funny like gotcha type of sick burn type of feel. But just as Dr. Zaius is trying to come up with a witty rejoinder, the ape soldiers outside have gotten the place surrounded and they start shooting. Heston very quickly again takes Dr. Zaius hostage. Again, not very hard. He kind of start to suspect he wants to be a hostage. And I guess he figures at this point that, like, you know, no amount of archaeological digs are going to get him out of the cage. And so he basically offers to trade Dr. Zaius in for some food, 2 horses, some ammo. You know, I guess part of the bargain is that...
like an extra wagon wheel axle, and you're going to want some, like, extra clothes for the children.
Exactly.
You know, just like the classic Oregon Trail loading up.
Yeah. In my case, it would involve just like hunting like 50 tons of bear meat and letting everyone die of cholera. But yeah,
right.
But yeah, I don't know. Part of this whole thing is that he needs to deliver like a smug lecture to everybody about how much apes suck. And,
so we get a little bit of that here.
Yeah.
Cornelius was right, Doctor. He proved it. Man was here first. You owe him your science, your culture, whatever civilization you've got.
Then answer me this. If man was superior, why didn't he survive?
Wiped out by a plague, some natural catastrophe, a storm of meteors. From the looks of some parts of this planet, I'd say that was a fair bet.
Like, fundamentally, the movie starts with Taylor being such a cynic. Like, it's just like, how is this still happening that he hasn't put the pieces together? I don't know, because like the twist is so ingrained, like the reveal is so ingrained in pop culture that like it's impossible not to know.
Yeah.
I feel like if I had going into this movie clean, like how in the world could you not see where this is going? I don't know. And like how could this character in this moment not see what's happening? Like it's actually angering at this point.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, the fact that it doesn't even like occur to him as a possibility that he then tamps down. But the problem is if you bring up that possibility, I think everyone would just be like, right, that's obviously it. You know? Maybe it's just like he was disoriented from the hypersleep. I don't know. Ape food can't really be that nourishing. I don't know.
Yeah, so Zaius isn't loving that. So he's got a little burn back to mankind that he drops through Cornelius in a special bonus scroll he's been holding back.
Yeah.
Beware the beast man, for he is the devil's pawn. Alone among God's primates, he kills for sport, or lust, or greed. Yea, he will murder his brother to possess his brother's land. Let him not breed in great numbers, for he will make a desert of his home and yours. Shun him. Drive him back into his jungle lair, for he is the harbinger of death.
Bobo 2217.
It's pretty harsh, man. I mean, we got our problems, but yeah, dang, Caesar.
Heston is saying goodbye to everybody, and it's very kind of like slow and undramatic.
Yeah, they're surrounded by like armed apes, and yet there's like the Wizard of the Oz like farewell scene happening too.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's not even really bothering to keep a gun trained on Zaius. You know, that's passed over pretty quickly. And then we get a weird kiss between...
Well, before that, let's just toss in the, like, super, like... I guess maybe it'd be okay at the time. But again, the like, 8th screenwriter threw this one in here.
I still say you're making a mistake.
That's the spirit. Keep 'em flying.
What?
The flags of discontent. Remember, never trust anybody over 30.
It's like, are they just gonna cut to like the laugh-in wall and someone's gonna peek out? Like Ruth Buzzy's gonna make a good one. Like, what the hell is happening right now? And yeah, as if that weren't weird enough, let's just keep piling on.
Yeah.
Doctor, I'd like to kiss you goodbye.
All right, but you're so damned ugly.
I didn't even like. Was it supposed to be like a, I'd like to kiss you goodbye in like a sexual way, or is I guess it must be, but like what?
I think it was like it's like this weird colonial like I'm gonna sample all of life's flavors. Like,
I
but
guess.
it's like what the hell is going on? Or I don't know. Maybe maybe a more generous reading is like he's found that there are some decent apes, and I'm gonna show how kind. But shake her hand.
Yeah, exactly.
She's a doctor. Damn it! Like,
shake her damn dirty paw. Okay.
yeah. That actually would make a lot. If it's like, get your damn dirty paws off me, and then at the end he wants to shake hands. Like, that makes thematic sense. Him being like, give me a smooch, Dr. Zero. It's just like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I think he missed a great opportunity to be like, lay those damn dirty paws on me for a change, Dr. Zero. Yeah, it's weird. I think they did it for the haha of.
I think it's
so
like
damn
it's a moment
ugly.
that's just there for the joke, but it's like weirder when you think about it beyond the joke.
Yeah, it's really insane, and the hostage situation is also handled so poorly. Like, Heston's like barely bothering to keep a gun on Dr. Zaius, and then when he leaves, he like barely gives himself any time to get away. Like, these gorillas have guns and they're surrounding him, and he's just like, I'll just saunter off away here. Like, I don't even know. But like Dr. Zaius is,
to put a pin on the kiss thing.
Sure. Oh yes, let's get back to that. Yeah.
I know, but. And I assume, this was like the last screenwriter, but I can't help but think it is honestly somewhat reminiscent of Eye of the Beholder, with like the ugly versus the attractive and different, ways we see beauty. And like, do you think there's any chance that was Rod's gag that like hung around?
Yeah, I mean, possible, but I don't know. It has the ring of like just a goofy gag that's kind of tossed in for no reason. You know what I mean?
I mean, coming right on the heels of the "Don't trust anyone over 30," which is not a Rod joke at all. Like, I think, probably with someone else.
Yeah, I bet when Rod read that, he'd be like, "Why?"
He's like, "The hell's that about?"
Yeah. People get more knowledge as they get older. I don't understand.
So yeah.
Anyway,
he rides off into the sunset.
He rides off,
as you were saying.
Yes, right. Well, he rides off after kind of like a very, very poor handover of the hostage. He rides off into the sunset, and Dr. Zaius tells the gorillas not to go after him.
I have always known about man. From the evidence, I believe his wisdom must walk hand in hand with his idiocy. His emotions must rule his brain. He must be a warlike creature who gives battle to everything around him, even himself.
What evidence? There were no weapons in that cave.
The Forbidden Zone was once a paradise. Your breed made a desert of it ages ago.
It still doesn't give me the why. A planet where apes evolved from men? There's got to be an answer.
Don't look for it, Taylor. You may not like what you find.
Yeah, the whole goodbye scene is just like one long thing of Dr. Zaius and Charlton Heston just trying to get the last zinger line before the other one. There's a whole lot of like, yeah, well, apes suck, I gotta go. Like, anyway, yeah, so Heston and his lady come to a shocking sight on the beach after they've been riding for a time. And we see it from behind, and it's like a big, ominous, hulking shadow. And Heston has quite the dramatic reaction to it. Shall we hear it?
Oh, I didn't get this.
Come on, John.
All right,
don't.
Oh my God! I'm back. I'm home. All the time it was. We finally, really did it. You maniacs! You blew it up! Oh, damn you! God damn you all to hell!
Wow, what a moment. It's the Statue of Liberty. So, it was on Earth the whole time. Oh my God.
I really want listeners to write in. I know we have some listeners who, enjoyed the Twilight Zone contemporaneously to when it was originally airing. So I assume some of you maybe saw Planet of the Apes in the theaters. I want to know, was it a shock? that he was on Earth the whole time.
We'll try not to judge. We'll try not to.
No. I mean, because I don't know. It's so ingrained in pop culture, so I don't know if I'm just feeling smug. Like, of course it's obvious, but like if you've known, basically since you were out of the womb, the twist. Just
the first thing
osmosis,
your mom told you. Yeah. No, I know what you mean. Yeah, it really is genuinely hard to tell. It's also funny because, like, again, you have this iconic line from a movie. And when you're seeing it like in context, you expect it to be like a little more muted and subtle than society has made it to be. But it's even more extreme. Like Heston is just like, whatever scenery is left in the last 3 minutes of this film, he's just going to chew to pieces. It's just so crazy and intense.
In my head, I'd only seen this once before. And I didn't, obviously I know this scene, but like I kind of screwed up the timeline and couldn't remember. I thought like maybe there was one more Zaius interaction after this, but it was a little jarring that it's just like Heston freaks out and we're done, folks.
Yeah.
Like, nothing more to say here.
And we're out. Yeah, I think I've made my point clear. So obviously, humanity killed itself in a nuclear war or killed most of itself. Apes took over, and that's where we are. And Heston was on Earth the whole time. So, that's the film. Rod, what do you got to say?
I had to go back and get it. Sorry I didn't have it last time,
no
worries. Better late than never.
Yeah, no worries. I wonder, I'm just imagining Rod being like, file under M for monkey in the Twilight Zone. But yeah, that's the end of the film. So I don't know. There's obviously a lot to tease apart. Maybe the movie is actually smarter than it kind of comes across because there's a lot of hay made out of like, look at these apes. They're just like humans. They like deny the evidence right in front of them, and they cling to old ideas and traditions. And that seems like a very obvious message that the movie is making very bluntly. But then at the very end, when it's revealed that Dr. Zaius is known all along, and really the reason why he's doing it is just to prevent humanity from like rising up and blowing up the planet with, nuclear weapons again, you kind of get the sense that, well, his conservatism actually has a purpose in this context. So maybe the movie is presenting sort of a more nuanced and subtle take on ape society than do you know what I mean? Like,
no, that's an interesting point. I mean,
because Dr. Zaius is like painted as a villain, but you really do see he kind of has a point at the end of the movie.
Dr. Zaius is taking an ultimately very cynical view of man that it can only end the one way. I think part of the problem here is that like our protagonist doesn't necessarily show him anything that would like make him question his beliefs, but like plow ahead anyway. It's like when you have the like 4-time president of the NRA running around being like, I'm gonna kill every damn dirty ape here. Like,
I only had a nuclear bomb on me. Yeah. I'm not saying that it's like such a sophisticated or nuanced movie, but I do think like you're led down the path of thinking that it's kind of like a very 60s like, man, the man's always the same, whether it's a man or an ape. But at the end of the film, it does seem to have like a slightly more sophisticated take than that, I feel. I mean, maybe it's botched in a lot of ways. Like in the execution, it's botched, but I feel like when you just take it in isolation.
I'm not sure. I kind of feel like it comes off to my eyes, my modern eyes. Like we're doing a sci-fi movie, but hey, there's some room for social commentary, so we're just gonna throw in as much as we possibly can under this ape guy. It's like,
true.
Maybe we're questioning like nuclear fear, we're questioning society, there's some racism, maybe there's some like treatment of animals, like maybe we're doing sexual politics. I can't quite tell what we're doing. Like I just feel like
it's more of like a
one or
grab
two like
bag.
Overarching messages, but then they just got a little excited and started throwing in a lot of stuff.
No, I hear you. It's possible that like they were just pulling stuff out of the social message grab bag, and it just came out being more nuanced than they intended. But yeah, I hear you.
I think it might be a little closer to like a goofy ape movie that shifts tone and like plots wildly from 15 minutes to 15 minutes.
Yeah,
but
it really is. It's funny at the end when the genres come flying fast and furious. It's kind of odd they didn't work in like a musical sequence at the very end just to kind of like round the bases. But yeah, did you find it kind of like I don't know on the social message thing? The movie seems to like presuppose that like the number one biggest ill on Earth now is like our mistreatment of apes, which I don't think is the case.
It's different.
Yeah. I mean, I guess
I feel like, frankly, the apes are like humans are more integrated into ape society than apes are into our society. Like, apes are really just kind of at zoos for us. I mean, maybe in other countries they're a little bit more involved, but
in other countries they're a little more involved. They can hold like local office, for example.
In North America, there's just very little ape interaction outside of like, the zoos and early seasons of Friends.
Right. No, I hear you. I mean, I don't want to like, brag about our treatment of apes, but I don't think it's like the number one problem on Earth right now. I mean, I guess maybe the movie is making a larger point that as humans, we fear like the other and we like to think of ourselves as superior to whatever it is that we feel superior to at the moment. And we fear things that are new. And I get that, but there are a lot of like, man, think about it. Like it's reversing ape and human. And I'm just like, I don't have that many feelings about apes. So this isn't landing quite as heavily. Like I don't really mistreat any apes in my day-to-day life. So
yeah, but you're complicit, Fred.
True,
you're part of a system.
I know. Ape silence is ape violence.
What we doing next?
Bios and trivia. Bios and trivia. Bios and trivia. Yeah. Scott, Zickery, Mark Grams Jr., Zickery and Grams, and IMDB.
So, I don't know. Got a lot of range of random trivia.
Yeah, I will say,
please.
Reading the trivia section on IMDb takes longer than watching the film. Like, there's just so much trivia.
Yeah, at some point I did start skimming pretty wildly, because, and this isn't even from them, but just in general, this shows my fundamental lack of understanding of, science and evolution and everything.
Yeah.
And so it might be interesting to other people who are similarly poorly informed. But according to Wiki, the family Hominidae, the hominids, or the great apes, includes 2 extant species of orangutans and their subspecies, 2 extant species of gorillas and their subspecies, 2 extant species of chimpanzees and their subspecies, and 1 extant species of humans in a single extant subspecies. So, what's interesting to this is, like, it kind of reveals, and, I didn't even realize that we were technically part of, like, the great ape family of hominids, but it makes Planet of the Apes like a somewhat sly, clever pun.
I see, yeah, like it's a correct, right.
Yeah, so like even if it's the Planet of the Humans, that would still be a Planet of the Apes.
Got it, yeah.
There you go, good stuff.
Did not know that. Was that number 145 out of 500 on the IMDb trivia list, or?
No, that was just me like randomly looking at Wiki because I started thinking like, wait, Planet of the Apes, like
what's an ape anyway?
Are we? Yeah. All right. So I'm just gonna start going, and maybe we'll cut some of these for time because there's a lot. I didn't get everything because there are literally, I believe, over 100, but I got more than I should have. So, the ship is called Liberty One. The ship had originally been called Immigrant One in an early draft of the script, and then called Air Force One in a test set of Topps collectible cards, and dubbed Icarus by a fan. That name gained popularity among ape fandom.
I gotta say, Immigrant and Air Force One are just 2 big swings and misses.
Yeah. Well, Icarus isn't bad.
Well, Icarus is not bad at all, but
Icarus is not a name that even ANSA would have, chosen for a space flight, though.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, it's tempting fate.
Yeah. So, the film won an honorary Academy Award for John Chambers for his outstanding makeup achievement. The film was nominated for Best Costume Design and Best Original Score as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of a lot of trivia about like the makeup, like about how like it was for the marketing purposes. They were like, we spent $1 million on makeup.
It's all out there. You can see, they spent that. During breaks in filming, the actors that made up the different ape species apparently tended to hang out together. Gorillas with gorillas, orangutans with orangutans, chimps with chimps.
Yeah.
It wasn't required. It just naturally happened, they said. But I mean, I think they also kind of filmed their scenes together largely, but still, okay. Producer Arthur P. Jacobs enlisted several journalists to play background apes. This was a clever way of ensuring that they would write about the film. Ape News!
Nice. You've been sitting on that one for 8 hours, haven't you, John?
Oh, Lord. This has got to be fake, hopefully. Allegedly, Jerry Goldsmith wore a gorilla mask while writing and conducting this score to better get in touch with the movie.
Yeah, that just seems like something that he said as a joke, and the journalist wrote it down verbatim.
Yeah, print the legend. Yeah. Exactly.
Isn't that a quote from The Ape Who Shot Liberty Valance?
I believe. Yeah, I think that sounds right.
Yeah.
In the scene at the Ape City Natural History Museum, a large claw of a strange animal can be seen. It is the plaster cast made of the foot of the monster that attacks the spaceship in Forbidden Planet.
God, yeah.
Everything Rod touches is connected to Forbidden Planet.
I know.
Yeah, I think the rest of mine might be all goofs. Do you have any trivia before I move into goof voice?
Go ahead. Let's go into goofs.
Okay. The astronauts find a plant which they declare their first life seen on the planet. They are oblivious to the grassy ridge behind them, seen when they are squatting. Scientist Dodge's first reaction to the life is to tear it up for no reason, something no sensible, ethical person would do. It's kind of...
I don't know about that.
Like ethical is pushing it, but yeah.
Sure.
Like, I don't feel like ethically compromised when I mow my lawn, but whatever.
But you're a monster.
I mean, I am, but... This is kind of interesting. Although this was not known at the time, experts recently estimated that the Statue of Liberty will only last 200 to 300 years without humans maintaining it, not 2,000.
Oh, that is kind of interesting, actually, so I'll retract my...
I'm kind of, what, is it going to dissolve to dust in 300 years?
Probably
I don't think
rust.
But, it would probably, I don't know.
I can't imagine it breaking down to molecules in 200 years, but maybe fall apart beyond recognition in a couple hundred years. I can imagine that.
Yeah.
Whereas Walk Me, Wet Me, Susan will last forever.
Okay, there are two that are definitely deserve the voice. In the prologue, when Taylor is making his last audio recording before entering cryostasis, he states that 6 months at light speed for his crew has been nearly 700 years back on Earth. But the two sets of chronometers clearly showed it as close to 701 years.
Yeah, that bothered me as well.
They got a lot of letters. Shortly after the crash, Taylor tells Landon and Dodge that they've been in space for nearly 2,000 years, give or take a decade. He is needlessly hedging as the final shot of the ship's Earth time chronometer just before the sinking clearly shows it's been precisely 2006 years.
What an asshole. I feel like that kind of fits into
Why
Charlton
was he
Heston.
Keeping that so close to the vest?
Yeah.
What was his end game?
I think he just wanted to say give or take a decade. It just sounded right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it sounded cooler.
Yeah, exactly.
Moving on to bios.
Let's do it.
These are extensive. Charlton Heston has a very, very long biography. If you want to learn more, you can read deeply, but I'll just give you a little bit. He was born John Charles Carter. Charlton Heston is a stage name. I think it's an amalgam of his mom's maiden name.
Yeah, the Charlton is weird because in a couple emails back and forth, you called him Chuck Heston, and I was like, can you really shorten Charlton to Chuck? That's more of a Charles shortening, right?
I think he was known as Chuck Heston's son.
Okay, it's just weird because
making that up.
Yeah, no, I don't think you did either, but it's weird because shouldn't it be Chucked or something like that, or Chuckin' or something? Anyway,
I don't know.
Go on.
I mean, most famous for 10 Commandments, Ben-Hur. He was also in The Omega Man, which is a Matheson connection. It was a kind of weird updating of I Am Legend. 5-term president of the NRA. I found it very odd that he hosted 2 episodes of Saturday Night Live.
He did,
I can only imagine how fun those were.
It's hard to imagine. We've really got a great show tonight.
Party on, Wayne.
Once again, the Allman Brothers. Sorry.
Though he actually was in Wayne's World or Wayne's World 2. So
really?
I don't
He was?
Yeah. Yeah, there was a funny little gag where I don't want to go down the tangent.
Okay.
He's in the movie. It's funny.
Let's keep going.
So let's see. He's kind of remembered today as being a very conservative gentleman, but in his earlier days, he was actually kind of a pioneer of civil rights, which is kind of more traditionally seen as a liberal, movement.
Yeah.
He even marched alongside Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in the 60s.
With a shotgun.
Yep. He served on the National Council of Arts and was elected president of the Screen Actors Guild 6 times. So I don't know. There's a ton of trivia and information about him if you want to learn more. Roddy McDowall played Cornelius. He also appeared in the Twilight Zone episode People Are Like All Over. Kim Hunter played Zira. She was Stella in Streetcar of Stella fame.
Zira!
Exactly. She won an Oscar for the role, but her career didn't really pan out like you'd expect. I guess she was blacklisted for a while because of supposed associations with the Communist Party, which were not apparently valid, but it happened. Maurice Evans played Dr. Zaius. He was a big-time Shakespearean actor, lots and lots of stage work. He was also Hutch in Rosemary's Baby, which is a pretty cool movie, good role. James Whitmore played the president of the Assembly. He was Captain Benteen.
He was.
On Thursday We Leave for Home. Yeah, I'm sure you could recognize him.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of the weird thing. It's like you really have to know these actors' voices very well. I mean, I knew Roddy McDowall's voice, but I also just knew Roddy McDowall was in the movie. So
James Daly played Honorius. He was Gart Williams in A Stop at Willoughby.
Oh, we got a lot of TZ connections.
Yeah, Norman Burton played the hunt leader. He was an office worker in miniature. Wright King played Dr. Galen. He was Paul Carson in Shadow Play. And Hecate.
Oh, yeah, Hecate.
I think,
yeah. In Cliffordsville.
And of late, I think of Cliffordsville.
Cliffordsville.
Paul Lambert played the minister. He was the doctor in King 9 Will Not Return. Written by Michael Wilson and Rod Serling. So this was originally based on a book by Pierre Boulle, The Planet of the Apes.
La Planète du Sang.
Exactly. So I guess in the book and in Serling's script, the apes had a more advanced society than man. It was like very technologically advanced, but that was kind of jettisoned in the rewrite by Michael Wilson, largely to save money for the budget, so they didn't have to build all these spacey sets. They could just have, I don't know, everything out of stone. Excuse me. It sounds like Serling did write the iconic, famous twist ending.
Yeah.
And he did put in a ton of work. He said well over a year and 30 or 40 drafts of trying to turn the novel into a script. But it also sounds like when they brought in Michael Wilson, it was changed significantly. And then, like you said, another writer came in and did like kind of a dialogue humor polish. Yeah. So I think Serling himself kind of has taken the stand, or took the stance that, you know, the final product was more Michael Wilson's script than his own.
Yeah, but I think, well, you know, there's a lot of content about this movie on the internet, surprise, surprise. Mm-hmm. And I read like a kind of New Yorker essay length piece explaining authorship of all the various parts. And I do think Serling deserves a lot of credit for coming up with like the basic structure of the story, because in the original novel, it's like they actually are on another planet and apes have evolved from man, and then they go back to their own planet, back to Earth.
Right.
Like the twist is very different, and I think like Serling really like created the basic flow of events and created the concept for it.
Right.
And I think the Michael Wilson basically rewrote all the dialogue and probably took it away from Serling territory. But I do think that like Rod is, you know, you can sense his hand in it. I mean, it almost is like a combination of a few Twilight Zone episodes. Like the People Are Like All Over one. You've got the same twist as I Shot an Arrow into the Air. There's The Long Morrow. There's like all these Twilight Zone type concepts. So it's an interesting kind of synthesis of a bunch of Serling ideas, even if he didn't like write every line of dialogue. He certainly didn't.
Yeah, who's to say where it would have, if it would have gotten to the place that it did if he hadn't put in all the work before. But, you know, it, not to take anything away from Michael Wilson, it sounds like he, you know, had substantial contributions to it too. So apparently in reality, Pierre Boulle thought this novel was his worst. Yeah. So
cool.
Go figure.
Didn't Michael Wilson also write like It's a Wonderful Life or something like that?
I don't think so.
I think he did.
Did he?
I'm gonna feel stupid if he didn't.
I mean, let me look. I thought that was a Frank Capra joint. Oh, Michael Wilson is listed as a contributor to the screenplay.
Got it. Okay.
But not a major credit. I didn't actually look too deep into Michael Wilson since you know,
I know we're trying to give Rod as much credit.
We're
trying to rob him of every scrap of credit he's got.
You know, Wilson did get credited eventually in time for Lawrence of Arabia, so, and The Sandpiper and Bridge of the River Kwai. So yeah, he did some good, like some big stuff for the era. All right, that brings us to the
inevitable
MST3K.
So we like to find connections between whatever we're talking about and the show Mystery Science Theater 3000. I feel like it would be hard to not make a connection to Mystery Science Theater 3000 with Planet of the Apes, because people who are familiar with the show will know that like when the show moved over to the Sci-Fi Channel, basically the framing for the entire like host segments section became a parody of Planet of the Apes. But I'm assuming there's more connections than that. We got Roddy McDowall and Laser Blast. What else we got, John?
That's the big one. I mean, We got Roddy McDowall and Laser Blast. I did glance through a little bit, but frankly, there's a lot of people in this and a lot of stuff, and that Roddy McDowall and Laser Blast is a low-hanging fruit that I was happy to pluck out of the tree.
Grab it. I mean, I feel like they're just, if you look at the list of things that, like the IMDb trivia section for Planet of the Apes, which is incredibly long, the list of like referenced in is equally just like a voluminous work. And it's like almost every episode of Mystery Science Theater 3000 has some reference to Planet of the Apes. So I feel like...
Yeah, I mean, they even did a movie, Time of the Apes, which is like a Japanese Planet of the Apes ripoff. It's essentially, essentially similar.
Yeah.
So lots and lots of ape connections if you want them.
What about IMDb ratings? What do they say?
IMDb gives this film an 8.0, which, is quite good as movies go.
It's kind of funny. Normally, like, we're comparing Twilight Zone episodes to, like, the average, and, when we do movies, it's a little bit harder. But there are, like, 30 Apes movies. Like, there's this one, there's, like, Return to the Planet of the Apes, there's, like, Revenge of the Planet of the Apes. Then there's the remakes and the double remakes. But I think 8 point whatever it is, we can agree is, like, a pretty high score. So how do we feel about this old ape movie?
Well, and maybe I don't know if we should have addressed this going in or not. I don't know, but I had seen this movie. I believe this was my third time seeing this movie.
Yeah.
Had you seen this before, I'd assume?
I have, but I actually saw it kind of like chopped up, like I saw like half of it and then I saw the other half.
Like a Skrillex version?
Yeah, right. Chopped and screwed. No, this was actually my first time watching it like front to back, sitting down, concentrated watch, but I had seen it before, yes.
Be a contrarian and difficult person, I've just never connected with these movies. I don't know, this one in particular, like, I feel compelled. I feel like, should I watch the next 4 that came, like, maybe then I'll start to appreciate this? Do I need to watch the TV? Like, why don't I like this? I feel like I'm doing something wrong.
Yeah.
Because I like a lot of iconic and, important and landmark science fiction, and every time I've watched this, I just end up getting bored and, like, tuning out, and like, Charlton is not my first choice of a leading man that I have to follow. Like, there's so much about the movie that's just like not my cup of tea.
Well,
so I don't know.
I think it's kind of like usually called like a cult classic. I don't know if it's like...
I think it's bigger than that. I mean, I think it was a high-grossing movie at the time. I mean, like, I wouldn't call 2001 a cult classic. I think it's just held up as like, anything that's, the most popular sci-fi then, I guess, is by default a cult classic, just because sci-fi is like kind of a niche genre. I mean, as far as sci-fi goes, this is like a respected pillar, I would say.
Yeah, but I think even it's famous almost mostly for like its campiest moments to some degree. You know what I mean? Like, I think
at this point,
yeah. I think like I never felt like I was supposed to think it's like Citizen Kane, like I knew going into it that it was going to be pretty goofy and silly. And I think I just kind of like was more comfortable with just kind of like sitting back and relaxing and letting the apes flow over me. Like it's not so much that I think it's like an amazing film, but it's pretty like fun.
I can't even justify it because it's like I love Logan's Run, but I don't like this movie. Like, it's like, one like dumb, completely uneven, ridiculous sci-fi movie is great, and the other one is like, whoa, why do people like this?
I honestly think a lot of it comes down to Charlton Heston. He's not very likable in the movie. Like, he comes across as just like smug and mean most of the time, and like somehow racist, like, even though it's apes. And at the end, like, he just seems like an asshole. And I do think that like makes the wacky journey a little bit less fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's interesting to me that, like, and I haven't seen the film, so I'm talking out of my A by and large, but my understanding, I'm pretty sure Charlton was not involved in any of the subsequent movies.
Well, I think he came back for the first one. Like, I think he came back for...
He was?
Yeah,
okay.
I think he came back for Revenge of the Nerds, Revenge of the Apes, or whatever it is.
Yeah, Apes in Paradise.
Yeah,
Right?
Apes 2, Electric Boogaloo, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I mean, my understanding, though, is like Cornelius and Zira became kind of like the main characters you followed through the mini sequels, which part of that might be like those are the people they could afford, and part of it might have been like those are the people that, you know, are likable and, you know, you want to like actually build your franchise around. It's in no ways a bad movie. It's well shot. The music is good. The acting is fine. Like, it's well done. It just does not hit for me like almost at all. So for me, it's like a 6. Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because we've been talking a long time, and I feel like I'm like a 7+. Like, I don't think it's like amazing, but I just think it's like fun, and it just kind of passes by. You know, like how we had the thing about how like it's hard to take like a movie or a TV show made about like a ventriloquist dummy all that seriously. They just like lack a certain dignity. Like, this movie just fundamentally lacks a lot of dignity. And I think you know, it has more like enjoyable camp value for me than it has like, you know, genuine impact, I think.
I mean, a good part of that has to be the period in which it's made, because I will say I don't remember liking at all the Mark Wahlberg one. But I did think Rise of the Planet of the Apes, the first movie of the reboot trilogy, was really well done.
Yeah, it is really well done. Yeah,
I really enjoyed that. That's like one of the few movies of the past decade that I've actually seen more than once. I think I've actually seen it 3 times because I liked it so much. I think there's a way to maybe tell a monkey movie now with like dignity and like compelling, like can be drawn in. But yeah, I think there are limitations of the era that maybe... I personally can't get past, but I
limitations of the Heston as well, I think.
Yeah, I don't think it's just the makeup that's holding me back on this one. So,
all right. Yeah. Well, that wraps it up. Only 4 hours later, and we've finished talking about Planet of the Apes. I don't actually think that was a request from anybody. We kind of took our own initiative there to do that one. But if you want to request something from us, hopefully something shorter than Planet of the Apes, please do reach out. There's lots of ways to get in touch with us, John. Yeah, what are they?
Yeah, there's only like 7 more Ape movies to get through, so we'll get to your request in the next couple of years. Yeah. You know, we got to get through this whole series. No, you can send us an email at twilightpwn@gmail.com. You can get in touch with us on Twitter at twilightpwn. Check out our website, twilightpwn.tumblr.com. You can like us on Facebook. You can listen to us on any kind of podcatcher app. If you're over on iTunes, if you leave us a rating or review, we really appreciate those still. Just to that end, let me give a shout out to several people who have written reviews in the last quarter. We've got Hamel JC, Fumi Kichu, Salbergda, and what I believe you pointed out to me, Fred, is our first really negative review by Livia Pet 73. So.
They were like these 2 Beavis and Buttheads.
Actually, it was.
But anyway, thanks for reviews. Mostly
positive.
Thank you.
Yeah, we like the positive. We'll take the negative. Why not?
Yeah, we can take it. Yeah, I don't know. We've been talking a long time, but I do feel that it's remarkable to point out that we've now had like 6 or 7 hours of Planet of the Apes discussion, and somehow haven't talked about the end of the 2001 Mark Wahlberg Planet of the Apes. Somehow Abraham Lincoln has not come up, which is kind of shocking.
I do appreciate that, you know, just glancing through trivia, like, no one's willing to own that in this day and age. Like, I think even Tim Burton's like, it was just weird. You know, it was just something to be weird. Like, no one's, like, willing to say, I thought that was a good idea.
Exactly. Yeah. All right, cool. Lord. All right, well, I will talk to you next quarter, John.
All right, sounds good. Talk to you later, Fred.
All right, bye. Do you think it like fuels like conservatives' fears about how we're living in like a PC police culture that I'm legitimately like, should I edit out that ape silences ape violence comment? What do you think about that one, John?
I mean,